When the platform became the party, how Elon Musk's X turned the American right's greatest victory into its most awkward dilemma. Politics, like nature, abhors a vacuum. When old enemies disappear, new ones are promptly misidentified. For a decade, the American conservative movement believed it knew precisely what stood between it and national redemption. Liberal elites were scheming. Journalists were sneering. Bureaucrats were plotting. And Silicon Valley, with its content moderators and earnest disclaimers, was quietly rigging the national conversation. Twitter, in this morality tale, became the villain with the cleanest haircut. The solution appeared elegantly simple. If the platform could be captured, the republic could be reclaimed. When Elon Musk acquired Twitter in 2022 and later rechristened it X, many conservatives celebrated not a business transaction but a liberation ceremony. Bans were lifted. Rules loosened. The digital town square was returned, at last, to the people, or at least to those who tweeted most loudly about being silenced. Mr. Musk, styling himself as a free speech absolutist, soon drifted from referee to participant. By 2024 he was no longer merely hosting the argument but energetically joining it, lending his fortune, following and temperament to Donald Trump's return to power. It was, by any electoral measure, a triumph, yet victories have a habit of creating problems that defeat politely postpone. 3 years after Mr. Musk's takeover, the American right finds itself confronting a peculiar discovery: owning the platform has not produced harmony. It has produced exposure. The right did not lose X. It won it, and immediately began arguing over the prize, the comfort of opposition. MAGA's early unity owed little to agreement and much to animosity. From the beginning it was an unruly coalition. Populists stood beside libertarians who mistrusted populism. Evangelicals rallied behind a man whose personal habits evaluated their theology. Media personalities prospered while denouncing the very elites whose lifestyles they had acquired. What bound them together was not philosophy, but opposition. Every rebuke from the press confirmed persecution. Every moderation decision validated suspicion. Every formal accusation served as proof that the system was afraid. Conflict simplified politics wonderfully. Loyalty became binary. Nuance became treachery. One was either with Trump or with them. Under such conditions, coherence came cheaply. Movements in opposition need not decide what they are for. They need only agree on who they are against. If the sense of siege endured, contradiction was not a weakness but a feature. X has quietly dismantled that arrangement. When the platform ceased to function as antagonist, MAGA lost one of its most reliable adhesives. Conservatives were no longer shouting at the umpire. They were running on the scoreboard. What followed was not peace, but introspection, an activity for which revolutionary movements are rarely well prepared. From party to platform, political parties, though unfashionable, perform a valuable service. They slow things down, they mediate demands, absorb eccentricities, and prevent every disagreement from becoming a public crisis. Platforms, by contrast, accelerate everything. X does not negotiate. It amplifies. Influence is no longer awarded by seniority, competence, or election. It is dispensed algorithmically. Those who provoke engagement rise. Those who seek coherence sink quietly from view. In this new order, MAGA has evolved from a movement with a hierarchy into a marketplace with no closing hours. Influencers now rival lawmakers in reach. Viral clips routinely outperform legislation. The internal conversation of the American right is shaped less by party leaders than by whichever personality happens to trend before lunchtime. Politics has become competitive performance art. Every participant must audition constantly. Outrage is the entry fee. Restraint is disqualifying. In such conditions, authority becomes theatrical. What matters is not what one can pass, but what one can provoke. The algorithm's invisible thumb. Much of this disorder stems not from ideology but from architecture. X increasingly rewards brevity, immediacy, and emotional charge. Video eclipses text. Reaction outpaces reflection. The platform prefers a gasp to an argument. This is not a political preference. It is a commercial one. but its political consequences are uneven. Grievance thrives under these incentives. Governance does not. Compromise makes for poor content. Administrative patience is algorithmically mute. As Republicans return to power, their online ecosystem stubbornly refused to follow. The platform remained in campaign mode even as politics demanded sequencing, restraint, and dull competence. The mismatch grows harder to ignore. Republican lawmakers now fear not opposition attacks but internal virality. A single clipped remark can generate a loyalty crisis by sunset. Silence is treated as guilt. Complexity is rebranded as cowardice. The movement still commands attention. It increasingly struggles to command itself, authenticity inconveniently revealed. Mr. Musk's crusade against bots delivered an unexpected side effect. Illumination, a feature displaying account locations, revealed that some of the loudest pro-Trump voices were not domestic. Foreign amplification, long suspected, suddenly became visible. For a movement built on claims of representing real Americans, this was awkward. The discovery did not prompt introspection. It prompted suspicion. Influencers began questioning one another's legitimacy. Accusations of infiltration spread with impressive speed. Paranoia, previously aimed at institutions, began circulating internally like a rumor in a crowded lift. Movements can tolerate disagreement. They struggle with uncertainty over who belongs. Trust, once spent, is difficult to replenish, particularly online, where suspicion travels faster than correction. Exit signs flashing. A handful of prominent conservatives have chosen to reduce their presence on X, citing its increasingly cannibalistic atmosphere. These departures have not dented voter loyalty. Trump's base remains intact and animated, but symbolism matters in politics, especially when reality is noisy. The exit signal unease among figures who recognize that online conflict is no longer merely rhetorical. Digital feuds increasingly dictate real-world behavior, shaping primaries, pressuring legislators, and narrowing policy options. For governing Republicans, the problem is not dissent. It is unpredictability. States can endure disagreement. They struggle with perpetual surprise. Permanent mobilization syndrome. All successful movements eventually confront the same dilemma. They must learn how to stop. Protesting is energizing. Governance is exhausting. MAGA has yet to make that transition. Psychologically, it continues to operate as an insurgency despite occupying the institutions it once despised. Outrage remains its organizing principle. Victory is treated as temporary. Compromise is interpreted as evidence of hidden betrayal. X reinforces this condition expertly. The platform excels at vigilance. It has no mechanism for closure. There is always another scandal to uncover, another enemy to expose, another purity test to administrator satisfaction. In such an environment, is structurally impossible. Politics becomes episodic drama rather than cumulative achievement. Succession without settlement, looming quietly over the movement, is a question few wish to articulate. What happens after Trump? His authority remains immense. But his longevity is finite. In the absence of a clear succession framework, competition has migrated online. Influencers, activists, and aspiring leaders increasingly position themselves not merely as allies, but as custodians of Trumpism's true meaning. X supplies the battlefield. Each viral confrontation doubles as credentialing exercise. Each ideological clash serves as a rehearsal for a future not yet defined. The movement's long-term direction is being negotiated not in conventions or committees, but in algorithmic skirmishes scored in impressions. It is an unusual method of constitutional planning. Coalition, channel, or creed. At its core, MAGA now confronts a question it has postponed for years. Is it a governing coalition, a media ecosystem, or a belief system? Each demands different conduct. Coalitions bargain, media ecosystems escalate, belief systems purify. X overwhelmingly rewards the latter too. The longer this imbalance persists, the more governance becomes symbolic, a performance for followers rather than a process for solving problems. Power is held. Settlement is deferred. A lesson larger than the right. What is unfolding on X is not uniquely conservative. It is diagnostic. modern politics increasingly relies on platforms whose incentives diverge sharply from those of the state. They reward emotion over resolution, visibility over competence, and conflict over conclusion. Movements that master mobilization often discover that mobilization, once automated, refuses to switch off. The danger is not dictatorship. It is depletion. Democracy cannot operate indefinitely at the tempo of a feed, the final, unkind joke. For years, conservatives warned that social media platforms were shaping politics rather than merely hosting it. They were correct. What they did not anticipate was that a friendly platform could prove as disruptive as a hostile one. Censorship once unified the right through grievance. Freedom has exposed the contradictions grievance concealed. X has not destroyed the MAGA movement. It has simply removed the scaffolding that kept its tensions from collapsing inward. The platform has become the movement's mirror. What it reflects is uncomfortable, a coalition victorious but unsettled, dominant yet directionless, powerful yet unsure what power is for. The revolution captured the megaphone. It is still arguing about the script.